I'll remember the time that I was in a wheelchair and I had a glass and I was trying to go get water, and it wasn't a powered wheelchair either. And I'm trying to hold the glass. Then I tried to put it between my legs and it was like falling and I was about to break the glass. There was 4 people in my house that lived with me. And I'm finally like broke down it's stuck in the doorway. And I was saying, what am I doing? There are like 4 people that love me and I just want water. Welcome to More Business, More Life podcast. We're going to talk about asking for help. How do we overcome that? When do we start choosing to ask for help? And then we're going to offer up the best examples of how to ask for help in the right ways. And the result you can expect from this is that you can have more of the life you want faster. When we give to someone else, just notice how good that feels. And then I think part of not asking for help, it's not receiving. I know personally, like in my family, there's been, we have a really nice meal and then people are like actually getting in an argument about the bill to the point where people would like go to the restroom and then drop their credit card off with the server, like all behind the scenes. And then when people go to pay the bill, they're like, oh, it's already paid for. And then still getting an argument in the parking lot. Like what part of us are we not allowing to receive? And now notice, if you don't allow yourself to receive, then you're taking away someone else's gift.
I think it's a societal thing, like Western society, kind of being self-reliant. Like I mean, maybe that's based off of immigrant beliefs, right? Since
that's the number one thing. I say this often, so maybe some of you that have been listening to the podcast, maybe I've said it on other podcasts, but I remember speaking at a high school once, and one of the teachers asked the last question. They said, Steve, one last question. If you could go back to your high school self and say 2 words to your high school self, what would it be? And I said, get mentors. And it was so fast. I was even shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, it came out so fast. And I was like, that's it. I thought that if I asked for help, that I was a loser. I was weak. And that I would reveal that vulnerability and someone would squash me. So almost like hiding to protect myself as well. And when I finally got dragged to a workshop, like I did not want to go. It was almost kicking and screaming. I mean, it wasn't all the way throwing a tantrum like that, but I was planning my exit. I was going to like disappear. One of my Irish friends taught me, it's called the Irish exit. You just like leave and everyone wonders where you were. He used to do it all the time. And I'd be like, damn it, where did he go? Because he would leave. And he's like, it's called an Irish exit. It takes too long to say goodbye to everyone, he said. And I know, because like I'm Italian, you hug everyone like 4 times. You're supposed to leave 3 hours ago. Like you're still hugging and saying goodbye and then in another conversation. So I get where he was coming from. But I was planning that. And then I met my mentor there and I finally gave myself permission because I realized in that day that this man knows something that I don't know. And I've been struggling for over a decade to figure it out myself. And there's a point where you just realize, well, at least for me, I did, what am I doing? And really, I've heard it this way now, and it's true. When you finally allow yourself to get help, it collapses time frames. So you could learn on your own, but at what cost? What amount of time are you going to give up? What amount of energy are you going to give up to learn that on your own when you could have someone guide you and fast forward? And it's a mix, right? There's some things you're going to have to learn on your own, no matter how many times people tell you, but then there are so many things that you could speed up just by hearing it from someone else. So now I'm at a point in my life that I won't learn anything without, if I really want to learn something, then I'm hiring someone that is like, an expert that can shed that light. And then it's funny how like you finally realize that. And it took me like 3 decades of my life to give myself permission to do that. And then, come when I had Guillain-Barré, it's interesting, like maybe big things. So finally I accepted. It's like, okay, I want to learn this big thing. I'm going to hire this person. Then the small things I still was not allowing, like smaller household things, or like I said, like getting water. So it's really interesting how it affects different parts of our life. You know, I don't know, like, so I don't know, just throwing it back out to each of you, like what are there certain areas of your life that have now become easier to ask for help, and maybe talk about that, what that transition was like, and then also maybe what areas of your life do you find yourself still struggling to ask for help? Stephanie, I think you put your hand up there.
Did I?
Were you waving at me? You're just
Yeah,
waving at me?
sure. Always, yeah. Um, I I just was thinking about how this shows up in, just like you were even just saying, from the small things to the big things, and even as small as like accepting a compliment. I think sometimes people might say something nice about you, and sometimes that's even hard to accept or confront, like without explaining away. If somebody says something about your shirt or something like this, you're like, oh, this, or oh, I'm a mess, or oh, this was only $2, or, like there's always some explanation. Like we can't just receive the kindness or like the help. And so I think I struggle with all the little bits, but I'm definitely getting better because I know that's the way to get what I want faster. And I think there was a period where I would think that asking for help, I mean, I had a lot of people offer me help just in the last, couple of months, moving, getting settled, whatever it was. People were like, what can I do? How can I help? And it's like that mindset of like, oh, I don't even know how to tell people sometimes how to help me. Like I would like to receive help sometimes. And sometimes I don't even know how to ask for that help. And does it going to take me more time to explain to someone, or, and it, yeah, just to how to even get to the place where you can receive the help. So there could be smaller things, like to your point of, hey, can you help me get this water? Physically not able to do it. But even when you are able, it's like, how do we slow down enough to ask for help so that we can get farther faster? I guess it's just it brings up all the stuff that we talk about of, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. So that whole African proverb, but I'm spinning out like Giovanni because I feel like it touches so many areas, the asking for help thing, and not being, I mean, from just being able to ask and then to be able to receive. Those are like two sides of that coin.
Well, maybe to jump in, like to help push this forward, like you said something about the quickness, and this comes up a lot with clients, with people I
Yeah.
meet. There's this, if you do it yourself, you already know how to do it. And when you delegate to someone that does not know, then there's this training, right? Or if you're like in moving, like maybe someone knows how to pack a box, but are they going to pack the box the way that you want? Because we've probably all had a friend pack a box and then it's all broken when you get to your new house. You're like, dang it. but
Or you just don't know what's in there. Like what?
Yeah, like
Where
no
is
one
that
labeled it,
thing?
right?
Or sure.
Yeah, all the things you've done in the way you want. But I guess I just wanted to touch on that the thing that we have to realize is that if you take that extra time, so that's why it is going far, right? When we do it alone, then you bear the burden of taking all that on. And so it does seem quicker. It is the quick answer in a way, right? It gives us quickness. You can do it the way you want it right now, but then there's a cost, right? Like, so if you deteriorate yourself, if you don't have enough help and then you deplete all of your energy, you can go quick like a cheetah. Cheetahs can go really, really fast, right? They're one of the fastest creatures on this planet on land. And but then they can only do that, from what I understand, about 90 seconds. So 90 seconds of full on. And then they literally will, if they go all the way to the max, they'll have to fall down, like lay down. There's no energy left. They completely used everything they got. And hopefully they got away from or caught whatever they wanted to catch, and so that they can rest right safely, because then they're at a very vulnerable state. And then think about that. When I've done it, I'll definitely say I've done it. I've pushed myself to the max to where there's no energy left, and then I had to completely, like, sleep, rest, and then again, you're in a vulnerable state and nothing's happening. So, well, it's quick for the moment. It doesn't allow you to go far. So in the distance, and if we want more energy in our life, then yes, there is an upfront time give. So it's not as quick, because we have to train someone. We have to say, okay, here's how I'd like the box packed. Here's how I'd like it marked. Please write down everything. I know it's going to take an extra step, but write down everything that's in this box so that we know when we get to the other side, or whatever that is. I'm just using that as the metaphor here. Then it does take long, but you can go farther. And that even includes in moving, because then think how much more energy you'll have throughout the move. And then even after the move, you won't be as burnt out and have like, oh my gosh, I did all this myself. Now I have to rest for like 2 weeks to recover. And these things I've all done. I'm not directing this to you, Stephanie. I mean, I think we've all done this. Take any job where you just said, I'm the one that knows how to do it. You take it all on your shoulders, and then what happens?
Yeah,
then
you're
the
tired.
far. Yeah.
It takes up all your energy, and it probably does take longer, like in the long run. I think I definitely felt that. Just in keeping with this analogy of like the moving, I was like furiously trying to get things done and unpacked or whatever. And I don't know, I think there's in some ways, like professionally and like with my career and everything, I think I've gotten a lot better at asking for help, but it's almost like on the personal side, it's gotten more challenging. I think sometimes I don't, I don't know that it's an ego thing, but maybe it's just an awareness that everybody is working through so much and striving for their own, towards their own goals, personal, professional, whatever that is. And so sometimes it's like to stop and ask for help. I don't know that it feels like a state of weakness, but I think that like as I'm getting older, I keep more things like close to the chest. And so while on one side I'm getting better about it, like professionally, on the other side it's like I feel like it's collapsing a little bit maybe. Um and I don't know where that might come from, but yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. So
Psychology
you're
behind
saying
it.
that, yeah, you're saying on the family side. So like, would you say it's family or just all personal stuff? So if it's not in the professional career, then you just kind of shoulder it and do it yourself. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe it's like a pride thing or a like we were talking about, just wanting to be self-reliant, like seeing myself as like this family, head, like this figure that just is like trying to be brave for everybody. And maybe it's just is with this whole move thing. I'm like trying to be so brave, right? Even though like on
Yeah.
the inside, I'm like the little kid, like, oh my gosh, this is tricky. And I have worry for everybody and all of that. And it's like, sometimes it just feels like you can't share that stuff with other people. I don't know what it is, but and maybe this conversation is coming up because that's something that I think we can do with anything, like to ask for help in some way, whether it's, hey, can I have a conversation with a friend, or just to get somebody to listen. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting
I'm curious, is it stuff
turn
like
of events.
not feeling I just lost the word, like people looking at, and not kind of towards what you're just saying here, Stephanie, but then just in general of like not wanting to receive or even ask, because like it's on that self-reliant track, but it's like you don't want people to see, and this is the word that's coming to mind right now, like weak or not capable of like doing something yourself,
Maybe.
kind of a thing. Like, because that's sometimes like what I get, because I can, I'm all about help. You guys know me, right? I'm the delegator. I'm like, oh, you got somebody else want to do it? Let's do that, because why not? But there are times though I'm just like yeah, I should probably do that, or I do it. I'm actually noticing something right now because I'm trying to figure out how to raise some capital for a project. Find some like lenders and stuff like that, and I'm noticing asking for help in that instance is like, it's like, because I have a community that I belong to that has access to this, and I'm like trying to find the words and how to put it out there, but I don't want to feel, I think it's like I don't want to feel stupid, which is stupid, and like that I don't know what I'm talking about, which I don't know what I'm talking about, and that's why I need to ask, because if if I just continue with the path that I'm on, nothing's going to happen because I don't know what I don't know, kind of a thing. And so that's kind of
Well,
like
let's
coming up.
pick on that. What's the risk? What's the risk? So if you ask, what's the risk?
Yeah, I mean, nothing will actually move forward, right? Like I was having this debate. I was trying to find the right words last night. As I was up till 2 a.m. watching a video to help me figure out, I was like, how do I word this in a way? Because for me, what comes up for me is that I feel like I might ask too much for too much help, because I'm like, and then it's like, how much is too much or too little, kind of a thing. Does that make sense? Like, I don't, for me, I've never wanted to be a nuisance or a burden on somebody. And so like, I'm okay asking for help, but then at a certain point, I'm just like, I'm like, okay, I think I'm asking like way too much. Like I need to like pull back. And then I kind of like, I stop, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah. How do you know if you don't ask? I mean, that's what I did all through my 20s into my early 30s. I didn't ask. I just shouldered it all, and it was hard. And I did accomplish some things, but I made it way harder. And I guess also look at the flip side of the risk. So you ask, and someone can't give it to you, or they don't want to, then we know that's not the person for you. Right. So just keep asking. It kind of goes back to our philosophy of business development. It's not about convincing people to work with us. It's talking to enough people so that we find the right match. So I think you could take that same lesson and apply to this. If you're looking for something, and I have raised money, and it's the same philosophy, I need to talk to a lot of people that have access to funds to find who's the match, who are the ones that are going to help fund whatever project I was working on. And so it does, especially when it comes to money, because it feels like you're asking for a handout. But when it's an investment, or if it is a donation, what's the cause? And then there can be a match, because there are really wealthy people that want to see their money go to good. And so again, then it comes back to like, who's the match? So I'm not saying that I always thought this way, Giovanni, for sure. There are times I did not ask. And there were times even when I was making movies, I made as much money as I could, so I could make the movie. So my first projects, I self-funded, and I put all the burden in. So I would make it as much money as I could. And then I would go all the way to broke. And then I'd have to make money again. And, I would just do this rapid up and down, because I would invest all the money into my ideas. And I'm not saying that's wrong either, but there are people now looking back that probably would have helped me. It probably would have made the project better. It would have put less stress in my life. Who knows what the outcome would have been? But I think the lesson in my life was, how do you know? So I thought it was a big risk, like to what you're saying, that I would be asking for too much, that I would be a burden on someone else. But then a simple thing comes in my mind. That's like saying I'm not going to call someone because I don't want to bug them. How do we know? Like, how many people I didn't call, and then I talked to them later and they're like, you should have called me. Like, what? Why didn't you call me? And now like the whole hurt was over, and I could have used the help months ago, but I finally, and even I know why I called later, because I overcame it. So then I'm like, oh, now I can talk about that thing that happened because I'm on the other side of it. So I feel like, look, I did it. But the reality is, when I was in it, I could have used way more help. So I guess I go back to risk. In some way, we're being vulnerable, right? We're allowing for that vulnerability to be seen. But isn't that what you want? You want to be seen because you're actually seeking a partner, or more than one partner. And so isn't it funny that we're delusional? I've been there. I was delusional that I better not show my cards, because then they're going to see what I don't have. But then look at the irony. They're going to see what I don't have, but I'm actually asking for the thing I don't have, right? Like, so it's so crazy. It's like, don't look at my cards because I don't want you to see what I don't have, but I need what I don't have. So do you have what I don't have? But I'm not going to ask you because I don't want you to know that I don't have it. And we go in this big circle that sounds ridiculous.
yeah, we are ridiculous humans and our thinking. But no, it is. I mean, it's true. Like Stephanie, Melissa, like what have you ladies, have you guys had an experience like that? Like Steve just mentioned, like you go through something and then you tell somebody about it and they're like, oh man, I could have helped you with that, or I could have done like,
Of course.
by saying.
Of course. But, you know, and I was just going to bring up, I think a lot of it does have to do with mindset, because we don't want to be vulnerable, right? We want people to think that we have it all together, right? Especially when we have a business. And I think a lot of times we equate leadership to strength, and being vulnerable makes us weak, like you all were saying. And I always go back to, I think it was Brene Brown who said something like, vulnerability is not a weakness, it's our greatest measure of courage. Yeah. And so when I think about, you know, some of the small things that I, for some reason, will not ask for help on, you know, I always go, well, you know, I'll ask for something when I really need it, or with something big, you know. But it's like, if I need a glass of water, or, you know, if I can't move for some reason, it's like, oh, I better try to do it myself, you know. And I know I get this from my mom, because she tells me this all the time. She'll be like, I need to go back to work. Mom, you're like 80 years old. Like, why? Like, you don't have to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think we feel, you know, I mean, I think as a CEO, you often feel alone. You know, you don't know what you don't know. And we need to ask, but it's like your critical mind, that negative talk is telling you what you can't do. Kind of like Shark Tank, right? It's like they're going to say no to me, but they're saying no to me, like personally me, like I'm not valuable in some way. And I think sometimes as CEOs, sometimes it's difficult to separate yourself from your company, your business, because it is you and you're giving it all of you. And so that vulnerability, I think, is challenging, because I mean, when I think about vulnerability, it's like our ability to break down barriers. And, you know, I'm a risk person. I've worked in risk like for 30 some years. And to me, it's all about, how do you manage your risk? And so when I think about vulnerability, I don't think about breaking down barriers per se, but really, when you're vulnerable, you are lowering those barriers and hopefully creating more authenticity.
Yeah. Yeah, you know this, Melissa, and I know this is one of the parts of our conference that you've always enjoyed. I think I remember you saying at least once that when we do the exercise where we're looking at each other, and we talk about when we put a guard up, I think there's many of us that we naturally do it. You know, it's like you said, putting ourselves together, Melissa, like presenting ourselves in a good way, and what we believe that is. And a lot of that time is like kind of putting a shield over the parts of us that are not all the way that we would like them to be. And let's face it, we're always going to be growing. Life is learning. So there's always going to be those parts of us. And the way you just said it, I think you said Brene Brown, and I think that is, I have heard that as well. And that is the biggest courage, is being vulnerable, to be willing to be seen. And it's also very powerful, because I always thought that if I did that, then it would hurt me. Like, people would purposely hurt me. And in my life, and maybe there are those people out there that would take advantage of those things, but I found an overwhelming majority is the opposite. People want to help and they want to come together. And especially when you're working in a company or you're partnered with a company, when, you know, I find more times than not, we're all looking, how can we help each other and create that ecosystem together, right? It goes back to that together. And it wasn't always that way. It is a mindset, like you said as well. We tell ourselves we can't be vulnerable, because then It's going to hurt us, it's going to hurt the company, especially like at the CEO level. Like you're saying, we don't want the people we're leading to think that we're not adequate to lead. And we don't want whoever's the board, the board of advisors or whatever, to see something wrong and then, kick us out before we accomplish what we need. And in all of that, I still lean now after all this lessons, and I guess, I don't know, how do we articulate, if it's just like a feeling, I don't know. Like for me, I guess the thing I go back to is, for 12 years, I was building a company, and it was 12 hard years, and I could not see the light at the end of the tunnel. I knew I was going to keep trying new things, right? And you just keep trying to change. And then I met someone that said they had been through the same things as me, and they were on the other side. And it occurred to me, why would I not ask for advice from this person? How long is it? And you know what I really felt? I felt like I created my own jail. It's like I locked myself up for 12 years. What's that one? I know Houdini, but there's like a modern magician that like locks himself up right now.
David Blaine.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's like I was that, but I'd never had any, school of magic. And so there I am, like locking myself up to just prove that I could get out, and I'm dying, it feels like I'm dying. And there's someone right there with the darn key. But I won't ask for that. And then, so finally, for me, it took getting to the dramatic uncomfort, right? Like, and I think that's why so many of us find our biggest leap in our biggest demise, right? They often say there's like, in the personal growth arena, there's even kind of like a running joke, if you will, or like a stigma that, when you hit rock bottom, you go. And why is that? Because there's nothing, they always say there's nothing more but to go up. Why do we let ourselves get there? And if you look, a lot of times when we're falling down, there were quite a few people we could have asked to help us. Like, I'm falling, like, help me, and we don't. We fall on our face, and then we're bleeding on the floor. And then finally we get up and ask for help. I know it's pretty much that for me. Like, I waited till the last moment before I couldn't even do it. And I then finally hired a coach, because I said, you know what? It was like the last ditch effort. It was like, if this doesn't work, then I shouldn't even be doing this kind of feeling. So I guess I'm curious why I bring all that up. How do we determine, and have you now, any of the three of you, decided to ask for help before you were all the way on the ground bleeding? And if so, can you find in your mind, like, what helped lead you to make that decision? Or do you all wait till the bleeding moment?
Oh, bleeding's so fun. Oh, no. I don't know, bleeding. I think I'm getting better. I think being around you has definitely helped. But I mean, I've gone through a ton of mindset shifts, right? And if you can, get yourself a Steve Napolitan. Like, he's the best at doing mindset, like helping you get out of that. Literally, I mean, if I could just tell him, just get a Steve, get the app Steve Napolitan, and it'll be. But I mean, I think now I have the tools and the mindset to ask sooner than waiting till having to. I think the maybe the way of putting is I have the ability to choose to, rather than having to ask for something, right? Hitting that rock bottom, like I can choose. I'm like, okay, I think it's time for me to reach out, to somebody to get some help on whatever it may be. But like Melissa was saying, like, it's mindset. Like it's been years of mindset, and kind of like what we talked about, like it just depends on the aspect of your life, right? So for me, personal development's like never been like, oh yeah, I should always go ask somebody. Like, I'm huge into that, so I'm always reaching out for that kind of stuff. But when it comes to business stuff, that's where I kind of flip flop it from, I guess, Stephanie. Like that was always a little bit harder to ask for and ask for help in those cases.
Well, and you mentioned tools. Is there like one tool that comes to mind? You said you have more tools now. Like, is there one that has helped you the most in asking for help?
No, I mean, I think like life is not just a one thing, right? There's not one thing that's going to make your life better. It's a bunch of different little things that will do it. But what kind of comes to mind is I think the pausing that we've talked so much about in past podcasts is like taking the moment to pause. And kind of actually what's going along with that is like in that pause, it's like asking yourself that, have you guys ever heard, if you're like getting in an argument with somebody or something like that, you like ask yourself like, is this going to matter in 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 years, kind of a thing? And like, if it's like no to all those, and like, what does it matter? Like, just let it go or do something else, for kind of a thing. So that's kind of what popped in my head, is like, okay, take a pause, like pause. And then like, okay, if me not asking for help, how's it going to affect me, kind of a thing, right? Like if I don't ask somebody in 5 minutes and five hours, like what's the amount of quote unquote suffering do you want to put yourself through, right? Kind of a thing. Because everything we've already talked about is like, when you reach out to somebody, more than likely most people that you surround yourself with are around want to help you in some capacity, right? Most people are good-hearted, wanting to do some good in the world to other people, and especially within their circle. And so kind of get back to what you said, Steve, like, silliness to think if you're bothering somebody, if you call them, like, you don't know, right? Like if you just ask, somebody would be more than happy. And if not, what happens? Like nothing. You're at the same spot you were before.
Yeah. And that's not the person.
Yeah.
It's so funny too. Like I just had a reflection real fast that sometimes when I have needed help in the past, the people I thought would be there didn't show up. And then it was people I wouldn't, like if I was a betting man, like who I would bet on, I would have lost so many times. It ends up being the person you wouldn't have thought. Like not always, right? As you get older and you have people you can lean on and they're always there, you have that consistency. But then there are the people that come out of the blue and you're like, oh my gosh, what would I have done if they weren't there? So it goes back to just asking, because you'll never know. And that's why I think the risk is low. I think actually it's better. I think the risk is even in your favor. If you ask, then you know how that relationship is. Then it's like you ask and they say no, then okay, thank you. Thank you. And whatever it is, and we don't even have to judge. Right now, they can't help. Or they're not willing to. So then we need to ask someone else.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I do, and I think we all said we're learning, because I'm not great at it. But I think what I've found is I try to be more aware of what I can do to assist other people, maybe even without them asking. And I think it makes me better able to communicate my needs. So if I'm more aware of other people's needs, it makes me a better communicator about what I may need right now. And so like I've found that, whether it's, I don't know, boundaries with my family, for example, when I start to, look and see if there's other ways that I could serve somebody else, then it makes me more aware of things that I need in my own life, and to be able to really intentionally talk to people that are doing well in that area, And so I think when you talk about, mentorship, mentorship doesn't feel like you're asking per se for something always. It is a service someone else is giving you to mentor you, but it doesn't always feel like, hey, I'm asking you for this huge thing, because usually people that want to mentor you, they want to do it. And they may have boundaries, but it doesn't feel as vulnerable if you're asking for mentorship, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I think on the other side, I've seen so many people not choose because they, it's kind of like what we said here. Stephanie is more willing to ask for help in business than she is personally. And Giovanni just said he's more willing to ask for help personally than business. So even in our own four of us here, we can ask drastically different, or what's available, what's not available, what do we choose? It's really interesting. But I think,
well, let's break the tie then. What do you do?
I think I do both now, but it did start like, okay, I know I'm not helping break the tie here, but and we probably wouldn't, because whatever I say, you probably say the opposite just by chance, but maybe not. But here's how I would say, I was thinking about this, Melissa, and I'm glad you asked, because what broke it for me was finally asking. So in my early years, I rarely asked for anything. I'm not saying before age 31, I didn't ask for help. I did, and there are times my parents showed up when I needed help. My grandparents showed up when I needed help. My brothers and sisters showed up, friends. There were times from, my young years to 31 that I did ask for help, but it was rare. It had to be like, I can't remember who said it, but it had to be like a big deal. Like Steve had to be hurting, like really bad. Like, it's like, okay, I don't see any other it was the last option. It was like, it was not the first option to go ask for help. I'll tell you that. It was far, far down the line. So then what happened when I got dragged, it was someone that was writing for me. She said, Steve, you got to meet these two people. And she was adamant about it. And it was a 3-day workshop. And at that point, I thought, what? Give up 3 days of work? Like, you know how much stuff I'm going to get done? And if I'm not working, I should be with my son. I only had one child at that time. And she kept bugging me, and then she finally bought a ticket, and it was non-refundable. And we were friends. She didn't just work for me. And so she said, hey, you're not going to make me lose money, are you? Like, so she was that adamant. So, I mean, that's what I mean by like, she really forced the hand. So then my plan, Melissa, was that I was going to show up and then leave. Like, so I was already, when I got there, I'm looking for a side exit so I could do practice. And I didn't feel I was good at it. I was like, I got to figure out this Irish exit. Luckily I had my Irish friend a lot of my life. So I was like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. I could do what he does. I'm just going to disappear. And then luckily the first speaker hit my heart. I don't know if you've ever seen, like, heard a podcast or been on watching someone on stage, and I felt like there was a target on my shirt, and there's hundreds of people in the room, but I felt like I was being talked directly to. And it was that moment that changed me, Melissa. That moment that I realized, what am I doing? Like, I felt the emotions inside of me. There's a man, it just happened to be a man. I've been mentored by men and women. Whoever knows what I don't know, for sure. I don't, really don't discriminate at all in that at all. So, but this man was on stage, happened to be, and he had been through a lot of similar things I had been through and overcame them. And it was quite clear to me that, like, why am I wasting so much of my life trying to figure out what he figured out when I could just go ask him? And there was some representation that he was willing to give this. I mean, so I have to bring that up too. Like, I think it would have been different if this was a man on the street. I don't know what I would have done, but it was a man that actually was taking time to be on stage and share this information. So something triggered inside of me that here's someone that wants to share this information, and I could walk away. I could have done my Irish exit, continued on my path, but I chose to go talk to this person. And then I ended up working with him for 8 years. And so back to your question, Melissa, from that point on, once it happened once. So I was smart enough to realize if I can get help in this area, why wouldn't I get help in this area and this area? And then I started hiring nutritionists and fitness instructors. And then, and as I got my business in a good spot, I started showing up at home more. And I remember the day my wife said, "Is everything okay? Like, you're home a lot, like, are we still going to have money? Like, what, and what the heck?" I realized quickly that she signed up for the working man. She was like liking her, like, alone time and all this. And I, like, all of a sudden I'm like, "Hey, I'm here." So then we had to hire all kinds of relationship coaches to like rework on our relationship. But I had already had the realization that getting help worked. And once I did that once, Melissa, then now no area of my life is untouched from, I don't even know. I can't even imagine a part of my life that I haven't had some mentorship now.
I love it. That's awesome.
But it
What a
took
great nugget.
one. Yeah, it took one to tip it. I don't know. Do you still feel that way, Melissa? I mean, because Stephanie and Giovanni already chimed in on this, but do you feel that there's certain areas that you allow yourself to ask for help and then certain areas you don't?
Yes, I would say it is much easier for me to ask for help on the business side than it is on the personal side. So I would definitely agree with, I want to say, I definitely think it's easier for me on the business side because I feel like I compartmentalize enough in business to not feel vulnerable when asking about the company versus me personally. But I have found that, and this was really since my husband passed away, more so than anything else, is when there are people that will offer to help. And it's so easy for me to say no, like trigger, like as soon as somebody says, "Oh, why don't we, can I do this?" And it's like, "Oh, no, I'm good. I'm good." And it's like, you automatically will say no. And now both on the side of somebody asking me, I will try to do it at least twice and say, "You know what? I think I am going to take you up on that offer." And when I ask somebody else if I can help them, I try to do that twice as well and say, like, how bad would it be for you to say yes to me right now? Because I think it's so easy for us to say no because we think that vulnerability makes us weak, but really it isn't.
Yeah. It's really the strongest thing we could do because you're letting someone see you, right? Truly see you for who you are. And in that, then, for me now, it takes away all risk because then I know who my real friends are and I know who are not.
And it sometimes surprises you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you thought you knew who your friend was, but maybe not so much.
Well, it's interesting. There are some people that have stepped up more in my life in the last 2 years with Guillain-Barré, and then there's some people that disappeared.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like, whatever it is, maybe they'll come back someday. Maybe not. It's okay. Like, I think there are people that are meant to be in our life for certain periods and it's seasons, right? It's like seasonal and then they move on. But I think when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, like your true friends, your true allies show up if you pay attention. So it does come back to that awareness. And it does come back to first allowing yourself to be vulnerable and know that you are still you. It doesn't take away. I think you think that you're going to be hurt, but I think and I guess you could be, right? Like, let's say you ask that friend that does mean a lot to you and then they say no. There could be some hurt in that. But then I have a thing in my life that I say, I'd rather know. I'd rather have that hurt now and then be happy later than be happy now and then later be even more hurt. So I think the sooner we know who is on our side or our ally or the one that we can rely on, the better life is. And it's better to get by, even if it is emotional. Oh, they're not the one. They're not the one to be by my side. So let me get through that grievance and move on.
We don't have to suffer alone. We really don't.
Yeah.
And maybe
We
suffer is
we
a
don't
strong
have to
word,
suffer.
but
No, we don't
we
have
don't
to
have
suffer.
to suffer. We
Yeah,
don't.
Melissa.
At all. And there's all kinds of degrees of suffering, but if you feel at any point where, and I know I've said that to myself lately, it's like, oh my God, why is this so hard? Like, that is your clue to ask for help. Like, if you're ever thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this. This is taking too long. This hurts too much. It's costing too much money, whatever those things are that are like the not desired state, then that is your red flag to ask for help.
Yeah. I think it is the tremendous courage, like
Mhm.
you brought up, Melissa, like Brene Brown says, that's it. I mean, think about the courage it takes to be vulnerable. And then I want to say this in having this conversation with you all, it speeds up life, not only from the mentorship part that the collapses timeframes, but also in healing yourself, healing whatever needs to happen, getting enough help. It just feels, I don't know. And I'm on the other side of it. I am speaking from the other side, but I've been on the other side. I have refused. I will say that word, refuse to get help. And I will tell you, hands down, with all the vulnerability, with all the scariness, with all the pieces that will be seen, right? All that vulnerability allows, it is called vulnerability because it's vulnerability, like you're being exposed in a way. That is so much better. Life transforms so much faster and allows you to be who you want to be sooner. And, you know, I was talking to an old friend I hadn't talked to in 10 years from Australia. I got to live in Australia in 2013, and I didn't realize it was 10 years. So I hadn't talked to him since I lived there. I've been back to Australia in 2018, but I didn't get to see everyone. So I saw, and we were talking about all the things that we had gone through, and we were just talking about being real and how much better life is when you do that. And the thing that came out significant, we were talking about how when you're younger, let's say you're a teenager in your 20s, like time just seems to be endless. But when you start getting older, as we all do, then you start feeling that time thing and it seems more and more precious. And it really is. I mean, if you think about it, I was reading the third book by Mickey Singer. He wrote The Surrender Experiment, which I think is wonderful, like in 2015. And at the opening of the book, he said, you know, it's billions of years that, you know, that this whole galaxy and all this has existed. And then we live like maybe an average of 80 years. So just think how much of a time. I mean, even if maybe I'm saying it wrong, it's like some millions of years, maybe it's like 47 million. I mean, there's some time and they know, but I do think he said this, our sun will like shine. There's enough hydrogen to keep our sun going for 5 billion more years. So like this whole existence will tend to happen. And we're in this blink. So when you really put it, it's like a blink of time. And then so layer that in. And I know we're coming to the end today on this today, but you know, this could be a piece that will come up again in another podcast, but just layer that in, just let that soak in. And so then it comes back to the when. When is a good time to ask for help? When is a good time to speed up your healing? When is a good time to allow other people to help lift you up so you can have a better life now and you can go farther and have more energy and more stamina? You know, like for me, it's now. And having a big medical episode in the last 2 years, hands down, like even more now, like I don't want to lose any time in my life that it could be spent wisely. And I'm surely going to avoid as many wheelchair moments trying to go get water, you know? And I'm not speaking from perfection, and I don't know if I'll ever get there, but I will tell you I'm a lot faster. So, so I guess my biggest piece of advice, and maybe we just go around real quick, if there's like 1 or 2 sentences each of us say, I would say, really think about it. Most of us don't ask for help because we think it's a risk, like that we're becoming vulnerable and that we could get hurt. I think it's the opposite. I found in my life, my experience, so just try this on. I've hurt myself more than others have hurt me because I chose not to ask for help. So let that soak in, marinate. But and just going around, you know, Stephanie, Melissa, Giovanni, do you have like one last thought before we close up today?
I think if you want things to come into your life faster, you have to ask for help. Like, we're not meant to do all of this alone. So if you think about what you want, we have to say it, we have to ask for it. And part of that could be asking for help if it's not coming into your life as fast as you want. Whatever it is, big, small, personal, business, whatever.
Many people have said, if you want to grow, let go. I don't know. Keep trying me, Melissa. Keep trying. Wait till the day you stump me. You'll be so happy.
Never. No, I think I was going to say, I think, you know, we think about vulnerability in with a lot of negative connotation. And I think, you know, just rebranding that mindset, that vulnerability can be a source of strength. But it can also lead to so much personal growth, empathy, improved communication, and resilience. And I think a lot of times, you know, especially when we think about like cybersecurity or something, we're thinking about somebody is you know, like creating some harm to our network or, you know, whatever. But at the end of the day, the fact that a vulnerability took place, of course, I worked in risk. So when we had cybersecurity vulnerabilities, it was a way for us to know, oh, we have a weakness right here. We need to go fix that weakness right now. And so, you know, it's our mindset. We have to change our mind to understand that vulnerabilities are actually helping us to identify areas where we probably do need help. And we can either redirect ourselves and, you know, make sure we're getting the help we need or asking for the help that we need based on what that vulnerability is.
Beautiful. It is the identifier, right? It's like that needs help. You know, it's like a wilting plant. Oh, maybe it needs water, or maybe it has too much water, but it's identifying like something's not okay, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love it, Melissa.
Giovanni, I guess my
go
2
for it.
cents is actually kind of a combination of yours and Stephanie, what Stephanie had said earlier. I just wrote down like take the leap. So like if you're like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? But at the same time, if like you're asking yourself like, why is this so hard, or how can I get there faster? How can I do this easier? Whatever, like, and that's when I think you should stop and ask somebody, whether you know the person who's right for it or not, but just like putting it out there into the universe. I think that's like the biggest thing, like putting it out to the universe or whatever you want to call, whatever label you want to put on it. But just putting it out there so that it can come back to you, right? Just like, hey man, I need help with this. Like, I have no clue where to go. I'm like, this is the few ideas I have. What do you think, or whatever it may be, and just putting it out there. I've noticed just recently when I started to put stuff out there, I'm like, hey, totally just gonna throw this out there, and then you get the feedback like, oh, okay, wow, all right, and then you kind of just keep doing that. So
that wow, just I think what I heard, that shock that people do want to help you. That's what you meant by, oh, wow, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
thought that, but I just wanted to be explicit on that. And
yeah.
I think I feel the same, you know, a closing thought that came from hearing all that is, you know, I've noticed people younger than me, and in certain areas of my life, they're ahead of whatever you want to call ahead. Like they've achieved something that took me a lot longer. And then when I inquire, the opportunities I've had to inquire, like, how did that come about? Every time they had someone guide them. And when I talk to older people that look at me in that way, that are older than me, what I mean, like they have more years on this planet than I have, and they look back, they're like, "How did you do this?" And I'm like, "I got help." You know, so wherever you are, at whatever age, it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter. Like when you're ready to finally ask for help, it will speed up your ability to accomplish things. Um, you know, many hands make light work, and it will allow you to go farther because you have more energy because you didn't do it all yourself. This was a hard podcast for us. I want to say we're all a little I think I felt it. Not all of us said it, but this is an area we're all working on. So in this way, right now, I just want everyone to hear as we close out this podcast, we were all being vulnerable right now. And thank you, Stephanie and Melissa and Giovanni, for being vulnerable with me. And that's the best thing we can do to help anybody, is to show ourselves. So even think about that just for a moment. To add one more thing. Oh my gosh, this podcast goes on and on and on. But even just being vulnerable is showing other people that they can be vulnerable. So even doing that, you're helping people. Whoa. Oh my gosh. I love all of you so much. I mean, this podcast is nothing but love. Like the reason we show up to make these podcast episodes is so that we can help more people have ease in their life and literally have more business, more abundance, and more life, more the way that they want it to be, the lifestyle that they want. I hope that you're getting value. And if you are, please let us know. That gives us the encouragement that we're on the right path. And if there's something you want to know more of, or there's something that we're not covering that you really need help with, we want to know, because we are showing up to help. So please, please, please send us comments on social media or send us an email through our website. Please show up and tell us. And we really, really care about all of that. So thank you so much for listening to this podcast. And I'll leave you with those same words that I always do. They mean so much to me, and I hope they do to you as well. Choose gratitude and create freedom. We'll see you on the next episode. And thank you for listening to this podcast. And if you've gotten value, please let us know. If you're a part of our weekly newsletter that prompts you on each podcast and gives you other tips and things, we always give as much value as we can. This is our core purpose, to help as many people have the freedom they desire. So we're living it right now by producing this podcast and our newsletter. It's absolutely free so that people can learn from us. If you want to join our newsletter and you're not on the newsletter, all you have to do is text WOW, W-O-W, to 72,000. That's 72000. And you can respond. We actually have a team, and it gets to us. So Melissa and I will hear about it and we'll give responses. So you can email, you can hit reply literally to our newsletter and write your questions or give us your biggest takeaway. We love to hear from you. And then it'll prompt you to join our newsletter. And we love to have you. We hope you're getting tremendous value. And until next time, as we like to say, remember, choose gratitude and create freedom. Thank you so much.